So I have people tell me all the time that they're not talented at watercolor, that no matter how hard they try, they just can't get it right. They can't get the paint to flow the way they want to. They feel like they just don't have the aptitude to paint, or maybe they're just not creative. So I'm here to tell you, this one over here, painting for about 5 years, couldn't draw a stick figure. And today, because of lots of practice, I feel like I can do watercolor fairly well. And I'm at a level where I have some things that I've learned that I can teach people, but it didn't happen overnight. And I don't think that I had the aptitude or the talent. So practice is a big piece of it. But in this video today, we are going to be painting flowers, but I also wanted to share with you guys kind of one of the number one things. I want to say number one, but there are a lot of things that are my favorite. But this is one of the main things that I have practiced, and I still practice to this day, that helps my watercolor paintings come out the way I want them to. So let's get to painting and chatting. Okay, we're going to spray down our palette here. And I'm going to show you guys the reference we're going to use today. So these really beautiful peonies, they've got several colors on them. And it is not, I mean, it's a digital piece of art, so someone created that. We're going to make our own version of it and use that kind of like our reference photo today. So we're going to take, let's see, we'll take this number 12 round, and I'm going to start with some really light paint. So we've got two larger flowers here, and then there's some buds. And of course, we're going to make it our own. So instead of doing that really kind of almost whitish pink color, we're going to use this one right here. It's a very light version of pink. It's probably going to be more intense than what's there, but we're just, like I said, using what we have and making it our own. So we're just going to do some little loose petals here. We will have our middle about this part right there. And if you want, you can extend them just to make them a lot taller. I'm going to put one over here, again, saving that middle. I'm just going to swooping some of those petals around, grabbing some more pink. And so I like to do really quick brush strokes because it just helps me to keep things pretty loose. You know, you can always slow down the video if it's too fast for you. Just another little petal right here. And then we're going to do some purple ones underneath. A little bit more pink. Little fluffy ones just showing behind. And then we'll do a second one over here before we get the purple in there. So long, swoopy petals. If you want to, you can even change up the color. And you could do like some orange in there too. But just keep it really, really loose. So then I'm going to clean my brush, and I'm going to go over to the purple on my palette. Now I don't use purple too much, but it's really pretty in this painting. So I'm just going to add a little bit of alizarin crimson, which is that pinky red color, just to make my purple a little bit more red. And then we're going to add in some purple petals right here underneath. So we're just going to swoop up like this. And it's okay if they spread with the pink. Just let them do their thing. We'll do that over here too. A little bit of purple over the top. And this is definitely going to look very different than the original. But I always like to credit the artist, especially if there's anything that looks a little bit similar. And I love using a good reference photo just for that placement so that I feel pretty confident. I know where we're going. I know where I want to put things down. What's going to look nice? So this one's a little bit more oval. I'm actually going to bring up some of these petals to make them a little bit taller. Some purple in there. So we've got a lot of purple taken over, but we've got a nice, pretty blend, kind of a mix happening here. And then we'll do our buds. So whatever colors you want, I'm going to stick with this purple vibe. We'll just put one right here. That little bud shape swooping around. And I think, you know, this is kind of what I wanted to talk about today, is about making a reference photo your own. So, you know, a big tip on that is to find something that you think is beautiful, a placement, the way that things are arranged on the paper, something that you find to be attractive. And then you're going to use that, and you can paint it exactly how it is and copy it, so to speak. Let's grab some more purple, but really concentrated, dab on your paper towel. You can copy it exactly, or you can do your own version of it. Now for me, I tend to kind of do my own version, but I love just having that photo for where to place stuff. It makes it a lot easier, takes the guesswork out of it. Let's do some concentrated pink, dab it there, wet on wet working here. Just adding in some expressive marks. And then you can see that, of course, I place these where I saw them in the photo, but you can add more things. So, for example, I think I'm going to go with a pink bud next, and I'm going to put another one here. So I like to use a reference photo, of course, for that placement. And sometimes I like to copy it as much as possible, and that's a fun little exercise to see if I can do it. But then other times I like to just use it to know where to put things. If I find a reference has a beautiful composition, I might want to use that composition and use the same flowers, but maybe change them up a little bit. Let's take a number 6 round. We're going to take some green, whatever green you'd like on your palette. And I'm not going to dab it, just going to start putting in some of those little thin stems or thicker stems. So if I'm just using this as a way to kind of inform me, put some stems out there, of where to place things, then I'm intentionally going to be adding in more things than I normally would. So I've added in a couple more buds. The leaves are going to be placed in a way that it's kind of hard to recognize this somewhere as, oh yeah, I saw that on Pinterest, right? It's going to be changed a lot, so it becomes my own. Let's see, we'll use a smaller brush for our leaves. I've got different greens here on my palette, and I like to just switch up from one to the other. So for these leaves, I'm going to do these little loose brush strokes. And we can just take different greens and start adding in. See how we're just going upwards. Diagonal marks getting smaller as we get higher up. And then you can even take some really light green and you can just kind of go like this and add in some very loose marks. We can go really dark too. And we can start filling in, let's see, kind of think about, like I want to put some leaves here. So I like to just make these really quick strokes going upward at a diagonal. And I think that's beautiful. And if you want to spread them out more, you can, grabbing some of the darker. If we want to do some value shifts, so some lighter mid-tones and then the darker leaves, that's going to give us a lot of high contrast. And that can just be fun. Then take off some of that paint, and maybe we're just going to do just a little bit of some light, the idea of leaves. And so this is where I start to get creative. I start to go off on my own kind of path here. I really like doing this type of a leaf. And it might take some practice, but it's meant to be just very loose, a little interpretive. You can see I'm holding the brush really loosely too. A different green here. I like to put some green in between as well. And you can even just do these little zigzag marks back and forth. Little, very loose brush strokes. And you can see it's starting to come together into this bouquet. I'm going to do a very dark green over here for a really beautiful contrast. So I just did that, of course, over this one that's here. And that's how you can start to layer, adding in some different marks. You can even do like, just like sketchy, little sketchy marks. And so we've got some heaviness over here. We might want to put some heaviness over on this side too. But really try to steer away from matching everything. You don't feel like you have to put everything together in the same way. It's just making things, you know, really light, asymmetrical. There we go. And this one feels like a little bit just static. So I'm going to take a clean, damp brush and I'm just going to do some flick marks just to maybe, just to change it up a little bit. There we go. So when I'm looking at the reference, I'm looking at this, definitely not, it's not gonna be recognizable at all. But if you feel more comfortable just really copying the reference, that's always an option for you. Okay, so I'm looking at this here. I'm liking this first layer. I feel like it has a good balance. And so I'm gonna do a little bit more with the value right here, just adding a little bit more of that darkness wherever I want to, just to have some pops of color. So I'm just digging into this paint, grabbing it, really intense versions of it, and just gonna put in some darker marks, but not too much. I like to cover all that white space. You probably know that already if you've seen my videos. And we're just gonna put a little bit over the top, adding in some definition here. Very, very dark here. I'm gonna dab the brush, and then I can just go over some of these spaces and create some more texture. And I can also go over these stems and define them a little bit more. Here as well. Look at that, so pretty. Now if you do these marks, this way, you're gonna have a pointed tip. If you do them going out this way, you're gonna have more of a rounded tip. Just a little point of reference for you as you're making those marks. Okay, and then I wanna darken that up a little bit more. A little bit more. Okay, you can really start to see that fun texture come out. I'm gonna put in some little stems too for some of these areas. Another way to use a reference photo is simply just to take 2 or 3 references and add them together, the different elements that you love. So if you like the flowers in one, maybe some flowers from another, you can put those into one composition. Maybe you can use a third photo using the placement that's on there already. And that's gonna be just a fun way to create something that is uniquely yours, but has the elements that you love. And then you don't have to work too hard. You can just kind of put things together, and it's really good for your brain. Really good to work that out. Okay, we're gonna take some of this beautiful opera rose. We're gonna do a little splatter. And then we've got some more layers to go. All right, and if you're enjoying this video, could you please give it a like? Lets people know that we're having a good time. A little bit of splatter all over is always a good thing. Okay, so things are pretty dry here. I want to do a very stunning middle, a center for them, but I also want to add in some extra pizzazz. You can see that these have really started to just bloom. There's texture, and I just want to enhance what's already there. So I'm going to take my smaller brush still and just grab different colors. I'm going to use this pink here and just move out of the way. Here we go. For this one here, I just adding in like some just really loose, curvy lines. And then I'm going to press down and kind of create some separation from this petal to the next. and then just bring that all together. So I'm wanting to add a little bit of some pizzazz to this, creating some of that beautiful texture in the flowers, and then creating some layers as well to show multiple petals. So taking some purple now, I can even mix some of that in with this. It's really intense. And if you have some lines that you don't like, you can always blend them in with a clean, damp brush. I love to make sure that the center of that flower has a lot of beautiful texture. I'm just going to put some marks here, and then we will show you, I'll show you how to blend it out. A little bit of pink. It looks kind of weird right now, right? So don't worry, we'll get to it. So just a little bit there. Clean the brush, dab it on the paper towel, and then I'm just going to blend that harsh line so it's going to be softer. It'll still have these beautiful color shifts, but it won't be so intense because we're blending it all. Just a little bit extra there. Okay, and that one's fine. And then this one, the same thing. Clean brush, dab it on the paper towel. And I don't really like these marks here, so I'm just going to blend those out to soften them. Soften them. Blending this line as well. And a little bit here. Clean, damp brush. Okay. All right. And then this one here, I would like to add in a little bit of a deeper purple. Dab it. So I just do some quick, really simple, curvy lines over the top to show multiple petals. Over here too, just a little bit on the bud. And now it's time to dry this, and then we'll do the finishing touches. Okay, so I want to add in my centers now. I've got my number 6, and I'm gonna go dark. So I'm swirling the brush here inside the well. This is a Payne's Gray paint, and it's really dark. It's a nice navy blue color. And I'm just going to do some little stamen here. I like to call them little eyelashes. Now I'm just doing really light pressure, and I'm just trying to curve them so they sort of fan out. Just a little bit here too. And then a little bit of stippling in the center. So make sure that you curve those lines. That's going to make them look the most natural that they can. And then little tiny dots, just light pressure, adding in those beautiful dots here. All the way around. Okay, and we'll do the same thing to this one over here. And actually I'm going to extend this a little bit because we do have a lot of white space, and you can totally do that. Sometimes like a second thought of what I need to do, and I do it. All right, let's do that for the other one too. Make sure it's not too dry. So you do need to have a wet paintbrush, and then just dabbing it in there, you're going to get really good concentrated paint. So I'm going to do this a little different. This time I'm going to do the, oh my goodness, the little dots in the middle. Stipple. I was thinking staple. I was like, no, that's not it. Actually, this is really pretty. I think I'm going to do this. So instead of the little eyelashes, the stamen, I'm going to keep it like that. That's really nice. And then I'm actually going to do some green on the outside. So really concentrated green. I'm going to take my sap green, just swirling around, grabbing that, and then little tiny dots. It's like a little crown around there. Just like that. And then if you don't want it to be perfect, you can kind of go and quickly put some little dots kind of outside that line because it looked really perfect, and I just want it to look kind of messy. Okay, so now that I have some green on here, I'm actually gonna just put in some lines over the top of this for some texture, if you feel like you need that. Nothing too crazy, and just try to simplify it a little bit over the top. I like how that got really light though. And then if there's anything else that you need to add, you can do that right now. This is looking kind of weird, like it's just stacked on the other one. So I'm just gonna go really light and put some marks just right there. I guess it wasn't as light as possible, but a little bit light, just for just a little bit of balance. So you're always trying to balance out your painting, okay? Just kind of figuring out where do we need to put things. The other thing I would do is just take some green and fill in the white spaces in between, because a bouquet needs to be nice and kind of tight, at least in my opinion. So all you have to do is just really quickly, little dabby marks. Okay, nothing perfect. Just kind of go with the flow. All right, and this one I think needs to be connected. So I'll connect that stem. Okay. All right, one last look around to see if there's anything else you have to add. I think I need to add a little more pink. So I'm literally just gonna splatter a little bit more. I just like to go 3 places. A little bit on top of the flowers. Wouldn't hurt anyone as well. All right, guys, there's our bouquet. All right, friends, I hope you enjoyed painting with me, and yes, using a reference photo, that's the thing. And I don't think I would do a painting without one. I can, there's stuff in here in my brain, but it's never as good as finding a photo that is attractive to me, that I love the composition, I love the placement or the colors or the textures. Sometimes it's fun to take a photo and just change it, and sometimes it's fun just to do it the way it is there. So that's so exciting when you can discover that it's okay to do that, and that there's plenty of artists that still use a reference. There's now not a magical point where you just throw the reference away and you don't have to use it unless you want to throw it away, and that's fine. So I did want to turn your attention to the links below, including my watercolor brushes. Now my sets, there's not that many left, so if you want to still snag yours, July 31 is the last day where they will be 10% off, so use the code listed below to get your extra discount and get your brushes. And if you don't know what to watch next, then you can watch this one right here. Happy painting and happy mental health to you. Bye, guys.